Welcome back to another edition of Elevate Your Grind, brought to you by the Cannabis Lab. I am your host, Todd Rosales. Thank you for joining us again, everybody. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's episode. I did my best to keep up. Obviously, with me speaking to someone who has a PhD level education from the scientific side of things, I do my best to hold my own in the conversation. But of course, just like you folks at home, I'm trying to learn as much as I can, just like anybody else. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. We've got another awesome conversation for you again today. Similar background. Let's hope I can hold my own in the conversation, but we'll see how that goes. Folks, tomorrow night we have an awesome panel for you. It's talking about the cannabis industry in 2021. It is going to be moderated by the one, the only Rosie Matteo from Matteo Communications. My good friend Cynthia Sala-Rosado will be on the panel, who is the founder of Green Market Report, Access Wire, House of Saka. We've got Socrates Rosenfeld from iHeart Jane. We've got Adam Grossman from Pop and Barkley, and we've got Liz Connors from Headset. So it's going to be an amazing panel. That's at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. If you want to check it out, you can go to joinclab.com. Of course, folks, we're going back to in-person events. A very safe in-person event on February 6th. We have the annual C-Lab conference down at the Sacred Space in Wynwood, Miami. Of course, we don't want you traveling, but if you're local, come check it out. We're going to be doing temperature checks. We're going to be requiring masks, social distancing. We're going to do this as safely as possible. We want everybody to enjoy themselves, but we want to see everybody's shining faces. If you're not able to attend in person or you're uncomfortable attending in person, of course, you can join us virtually, and you can find that information at joinclab.com. Of course, if you missed any of our episodes from last week or previous, you can find those on all of your podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeart. There's 100 of them, folks. And then if you like to see our pretty faces, you can find those at youtube.com/elevateyourgrind. All right, folks, I've got an awesome guest for you today. Really a company that is focusing on the wellness side of this industry and truly bringing the power of the plant to the people. I'm a big fan of the way that they've kind of set up their marketing and branding. I feel like it's a good introduction of the general public to the cannabis space. So we're going to dig into that a whole lot more. We're going to talk probably a little bit of technology. We're going to talk some entrepreneurship and a whole lot of other topics. Of course, we're going to be talking cannabis products, which is one of our favorite things to talk about here. So without any further ado, please welcome the CEO of Sunderstorm, Cameron. Well, it's a mouthful. Cameron Clark. Sorry. I didn't even ask you how to say your name, and that's the first one I've chewed up in a while. So I apologize for that, Cameron.
It's an easy one. Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, please. I'm honored that you would join us, man. So, looking at your backstory, I was going through your LinkedIn and I tried to find one company that you were with where your title didn't involve founder or CEO or something along those lines. But there was one, and then I found out you were a co-founder of the company as well, too. And now I think that was Aeroglass, where you were listed as COO and VP of Biz Dev. So I think we can safely say you're the definition of a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of in my blood. My parents instilled it into me. I love new technologies. I love new things, and I like to create stuff. So I'm not very artistic. So this is my platform to be creative, is new ideas and new companies.
Did you start that when you were young? I mean, were you one of those kids with the lemonade stand or selling golf balls out of the lake? We've had a lot of entrepreneurs here on the show, and I'm always impressed because when I was sitting there like, all right, what friends can I play with and where can I ride my bike? There were a lot of kids that were selling lemonade or golf balls or like different things. So, I mean, did you start at a young age? Is that when you got the bug?
I've been told I'm like I think it's Alex Keaton because I was carrying a briefcase when I was like 6 years old, so or 6 or 7 years old. So yeah, I guess it's kind of in my blood. But you know what? I just to be honest, I had the entrepreneurial spirit. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. It was driven into my head when I was younger, and I guess I just like to be creative, and whether I succeed or fail really is dependent on me. So, I find a lot of pleasure in that and a lot of excitement.
Well, I certainly admire that a lot. And, this podcast is my foray into that world. But for now, I think I'm just going to take a seat on the sidelines and be a fan of all you guys that are shaping the cannabis space. So it's really interesting because you have a nice background of really everything kind of has this like health aura around it, right? I mean, one of your companies, you were importing acai from the Amazon, right? And then it was really your work with algae that actually brought you over to cannabis, which is really cool. So tell me about your journey. Was it just kind of a fascination with the human body and kind of wellness, or how did you really start this journey into, I think it was plant-based medicine, for
Yeah,
lack
yeah,
of a
yeah.
better term?
You know, it's interesting actually because I've always been, you know, for most of my life, I've been pretty interested in health and been pretty health conscious. You know, I've always been was very athletic as a kid, and just really like to be, you know, to optimize my own nutrition and my own health. But when I got into my 30s, I, you know, started really focusing on nutrition and the fact that food and nutrition can heal the body. And that led me kind of down this path of understanding more about plants and what plants can do for us. You know, I'm not a vegan, but I very much, you know, appreciate the vegan you know, concept and really using plants to heal. And so that led me down the path of really kind of delving into the psychoactive aspect of plants and plant medicines and shamanism. So I spent a big chunk of my 30s and 40s kind of really trying to understand what these plant medicines can do and how they can expand your consciousness. And so, you know, when cannabis, you know, when it came down the path for cannabis to become legal, you know, I thought to myself, I said, you know, God, you know, this is kind of, you know, an opportunity for me to take everything that I've focused on in life, you know, everything that I've learned, you know, with technology and science and nutrition and plant medicines and you know, consciousness, an expansion of my consciousness and community to really, you know, that all sort of has driven me into cannabis because, you know, cannabis is an amazing plant, right? It's mind expanding. It's greatly beneficial for human health, right? It's also greatly beneficial for human community, right? And helping us build a community with each other to heal not just ourselves, but our communities. And that through conversation and through understanding each other better, right? So I really feel like, you know, my life's all the different aspects of my life's work from software to technology to you know, nutrition and all that really, you know, Thunderstorm is really a culmination of all of that learning and experience that I've had in my life. So I'm really excited to be doing this.
That's awesome, man. I want to circle back to your journey in just a second, but you had mentioned something talking about plants, plant medicine, you know, your appreciation for veganism and everything else. You know, there's a new kind of, it's more of a newer wave. When I say new, the past, you know, probably 3, 5 years, whatever it is, of people looking to Whole Foods and not Whole Foods, the chain, but actual Whole Foods, more natural remedies and everything else. So, you know, we've done a very good job kind of discounting that cannabis is not a gateway drug per se, but where I see cannabis's place is potentially being a gateway to more natural products and remedies for the general public, right? And you never would have thought that something that was outlawed for 75 plus years, something that had been demonized so hard, might actually be the key to getting our society, especially Americans in general, to start looking at more natural remedies, at preventative remedies, and, you know, incorporating more of this stuff into their diet. And I think it's kind of shocking that cannabis might be the thing to lead the charge. You know, given your background, the experience you've had with other plants and everything that wasn't cannabis, would you say that this plant potentially has the ability to open up that door for our society?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. And you know, one of the primary reasons is that it's finally, you know, a psychoactive plant medicine that is really on its way to being fully legal in the United States, right? You know, it's interesting, right? You have other cultures around the world where plant medicines are inherent in their culture and they're fully legal and they use them either through shamanic work or through, you know, just their natural healing processes. And it's just quite common. It's embedded in their culture. And you know, in the United States, we have a bad history of kind of just, you know, focusing only on Western medicine and saying, hey, these plant medicines, you know, are, you know, they're a thing of the past. They may not work. They're not going to work as well as kind of our derivative science out of the plants. I mean, a lot of our medicines come from plants, of course, but you know, we've lost touch with the power of these plants in and of themselves, right? And so I think you're right. I think in many ways, you know, cannabis is coming back into a world where there's a lot of interest in the power of the plant and what these nutrient, you know, kind of synergistic nutrients can do for us. We're all very well aware that, you know, good healthy food can heal, right? And it can heal because it has all this, you know, healthy nutrition in it. And we're looking for nutrition that is, you know, not just, traditional, not just kind of stock farming, right? That there's a lot of good natural nutrition in the organic foods that we're seeking to eat. It's the same thing with cannabis, right? You know, this is a natural plant medicine has been used for thousands of years. And, you know, bringing it back into into our worldview and incorporate it into our lives is going to be very, very beneficial for our health and for our communities. I think one thing that's interesting is that like all plants, right? We have modified them tremendously over the years, right? And I think that you know, that we've modified cannabis a lot, and we've really strengthened the THC side of it. And I think that that's, you know, has benefit for you know, a portion of the population. But I also think that for a lot of the population, myself included, you know, having a little bit, you know, lower THC and a little bit higher CBD and other cannabinoids is really beneficial. And you get this entourage effect that we've all heard about, right? When you incorporate these other compounds that are in the plant. And so I think we're going to see a little bit more of that balance as we go forward and develop the science. And one of the exciting things for me is that we are really starting to do the research today. Finally, after decades of not doing anything in this with research with cannabis, other than Israel, of course. And I think we're going to learn a lot about that. But, you know, cannabis is also personal, and we can talk about that in a moment as well.
Yeah, man. I mean, I kind of like this vein that you're staying on here because I listen, just listening to your background, the way you're talking, there's someone I would love to introduce you to. So I think you guys would talk for hours. And funny enough, it's actually Ricky Williams, you know, the former Heisman Trophy winner, because I spent some time with Ricky and he went on this same journey, just going into herbalism and Eastern medicine and everything else like that. And one of the things that I learned from him is these ancient practices with herbs and plants and everything else very much focused on preventative health measures, keeping your body healthy, and not kind of how our US health system is based, where it's kind of reactionary, right? You get sick, you go to the doctor, but you know, outside of like multivitamins and stuff like that, people really aren't taking care of their body the way they should. I mean, they take better care of their car with oil changes and transmission jobs and things like that than they do their own body. And you can get a new car every 2 to 3 years if you lease them. You're not getting a new body. So it's really interesting to see if, you know, cannabis and just really the wave of things that it's going to inspire changes the culture here, where we start to take a look at preventative measures, where we're taking more supplement. I mean, turmeric was huge for a while. Cannabis is one of them. CBD is helping lead the charge. Obviously, you know, we want to make sure that people are getting the right introduction to it. You know, companies like you and everybody else, and not just on their corner bodega, whatever says CBD on the packaging. But I'm really interested to see if that is, if something, again, and I think I'm repeating myself from the last time, that was illegal for so long is really what's going to be opening our eyes to how we should be taking care of ourselves. And you're right. When you would hear about the destruction of the Amazon rainforest, you would hear that there are so many potential medications and everything else that they were getting rid of. And it's funny to me that, okay, all those plants that were burning down, those are all good plants, but that one over there, that's a bad plant. We can't use that plant, right? It's just crazy to me. And I feel like you have so much more insight, you know, with your journeys and spending time in, I think it was you, or I don't remember, it was you or your partner, both of you guys that spent time in Asia just learning it. You know, I don't know if you can give us any more insight into that kind of way of life and if that's going to happen here.
You know, I think, you know, I've spent a lot of time actually down in the Amazon. I actually lived actually deep in the Amazon jungle for 6 months of my life in a little
Wow.
village with no running water and no electricity. I've been to many different parts of the Amazon. I've done a lot of shamanic journeying down there. I've done a lot of self-study and kind of, consciousness studies, and tried to understand, both the internal world and the external world, and the balance between them. And again, I really think that, where I am today is really because of a lot of this work this internal work that I've done. And, I think what's interesting for me is that I'm also, a scientist at heart. I've just self-study science, and I created a community molecular biology lab in San Diego. I created a molecular bio lab in the San Diego La Jolla Library, where kids can learn molecular biology. I love science, and so for me, it's really a blend, right? There is incredible power inherent in the plants themselves, and then there is also the benefit of technology and ways that we've learned to and maybe enhance some of that power of the plant, or refine it a little bit, right? I'm a huge advocate of the entourage effect and all the different cannabinoids, but I also am, to be honest, very, very interested in consistent, reliable dosing and accuracy of the medicines themselves. And so one thing that's interesting, and we're learning a lot about this, is, how do you balance that need for all of these different compounds within these plants, but also the need to have consistency, right? So the experience is the same, right? So you get the same amount of medicine every time. And that's something that we've been working on over the years, is to try to take the best of nature and the best of science and blend them together into products that are really, incredibly valuable for our consumers. And I'll give an example. Our nanotechnologies are exactly that, right? We take the power of the plant, we put it into our edibles and ingestibles, and then we combine it with powerful new nanotechnologies that enhance the reliability and the efficacy and the time to effect, so that the consumer gets the best experience possible. And I think that's where we really have to focus is, how do we take, the best of both worlds and blend them in a way where we keep the power of the plant, but also leverage science in a way that's beneficial for us all.
See, that's where I really like your approach, right? Because when we look at cannabis, there is a built-in user community. And, I think part of the downside of that, a lot of them are looking at those high THC products, right? There's been cannabis users forever. And so it's the first industry that comes out of nowhere just because it was legalized and has a built-in consumer base. However, there's still a very large part of the population that is, they believe the PR campaign that was going against cannabis, and they're first being introduced to it now, and they're unfamiliar with it, and they're scared of it sometimes, right? And it requires a nice level of education. But, I think what you're doing is bringing those folks into the fold and showing them, because even your edibles, it's a perfect example, right? Everybody who's a legacy cannabis consumer, we all have that one story. I've heard you tell stories about it, make jokes where you try an edible, and then next thing you're on the moon. You wake up 14 hours later. That's a very scary thought. But to look at a company like yours that has actually been awarded for your accuracy in your numbers, and that you're delivering consistent doses every time, and it's a 10 milligram dose, which is a very, 5, 10, whatever it is, which is very manageable for the average person. Not only that, they're not having to smoke it. It's quick acting. So you don't have that, like, okay, I took it and all of a sudden an hour later, I don't feel it. So I'm going to go drive to CVS. This might've been a personal story, where next thing I know, I'm standing in the deodorant aisle for 20 minutes because I didn't realize it kicked in. The fast acting definitely helps. Was that kind of part of the plan with Sunderstorm? Was, hey, we have our legacy consumers. We're going to make sure they're taken care of, but we want to make these products that, John stockbroker gets off work, and instead of putting away 3 scotches, maybe he eats an edible.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where the world is going, right? Is that we have a lot of experience with alcohol, right? And so many of us use alcohol as an anti-anxietal or to relax, right? Or as a social lubricant. So we understand it. What is it like to drink a beer? What is it like to drink a glass of wine? We know it quite well. Many of us are just learning how to do the same with cannabis, right? And the benefit of cannabis is you wake up the next day and you don't have the hangover. And in fact, you've
Yeah.
done something good for your body, as opposed to, beat the hell out of your body with a toxin, right? With alcohol. So, I do enjoy my beer, but in the end, I know that the cannabis is much, much healthier for me, and is doing something good for my body. So, I think we're just shifting, right? From a time where all cannabis was bad for everybody and caused all kinds of negative things. And now what we're seeing is, hey, that's not true, because we're healing all kinds of people. There's been a big community for decades that has understood this, been pounding the pavement, being revolutionaries, trying to explain to everybody why this plant is so beneficial to all. And now the world is finally listening, and we're all going to benefit from it. But the new adopters have to take baby steps in order to see how, so they can understand how it's going to impact their body. And I think one thing that's also different is that cannabis is really interesting in that it impacts all of our bodies slightly differently, right? And there's all these other compounds in there that interact with our bodies differently. So, we like to say that cannabis is personal, and we're working on products that actually analyze your DNA. We've partnered with a company called Endocanna Health that analyzes your DNA, and we've just launched a set of products called Nano5 DNA that are going to be geared towards your genetic makeup. So, certain people can handle a sativa, that energizing effect, quite well. It works well for them. Some of them, which is probably more like me, because typically cannabis puts me to sleep, and it doesn't energize me, whereas my business partner, it energizes him tremendously. So our genetics are very different. So understanding how that works and what's good, what's right for each of our bodies is going to be one of the next waves in cannabis technology that is going to be incredibly beneficial for us. But the new consumers need to understand this. They need to dip their toe. They need to start small, see how the effect is, get used to it, and then evolve from there.
All right. So you've certainly got my attention with what you just said, as far as I'm going to call it personalized cannabis. You kind of touched on that too, but that sounds incredible, because I spend a lot of time experimenting with different strains just to see how my body reacts to it. I don't document everything that I do, but if I remember a good strain, especially a solid sativa that gives me energy, I always joke around, like when people ask me how I can consume cannabis and then complete tasks, I'm like, there are certain strains where it's like, listen, I hate doing housework, but if I smoke a little sativa in the morning, I'll go to it. I'll put some music on. It takes the suck out of it. It's just, puts me in a better mood, and you do it. I talked to Steve D'Angelo about this. Actually, there are certain times where I did not want to work out, a little bit of a sativa, boom. Hey, I'm already throwing air punches, right? And I'm ready to go hit the bag. So, I very much like to experiment and figure out what works for me in the right situation. And those two situations are completely different than Friday night. I'm done with the week. I want to watch something funny on TV, and I just want to sit there and laugh, So
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure that out. It sounds like what you guys are doing is almost like this 23andMe test, and then you get personalized recommendations. Sign me up for the beta. I'm in.
Yeah. That's exactly what we're doing. So you get a test kit, right? It's the same thing as 23andMe or Ancestry. You do a genetic test. You get your results back, and it'll make recommendations on products that are geared towards your specific genome. But you bring up a really, really good point, and that is that you're going to use it. You're going to use cannabis for different reasons at different points of the times of the day or times of the week, right? And that's another whole thing. So we don't actually, in our company, one of our mantras from the beginning has been that we don't really differentiate between medical and recreational. And what I mean by that is, you may wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I got a little pain in my back, so I need to take this capsule in order to manage my pain. Maybe it's a high CBD, low THC, and then in the evening, you may go out and socialize with your friends, and smoke a joint and relax with them and use it as a social lubricant, right? Two
No.
totally different ways of using the same plant, and both beneficial for you, both leading towards optimizing your sense of wellness. And that's really what at Sunderstorm, what we're driving, right? We put it into our Kana edibles, we put it into our Nano 5 sublinguals. We want you to be able to live a life of optimized wellness by using cannabis both recreationally and medicinally. And we know that you're going to need both.
I couldn't agree more. And it's funny, you know, I have so many different conversations with people and we talk about the medicinal, the wellness, the recreational, and all the different things when, yeah, at the end of the day, it's really the same stuff and it's how you're using it for the specific use case.
It is.
And, you know, I go back and forth, like trying to justify myself to the general public. Like I use it for this and I use it for that. But no, there have been plenty of times where Super Troopers has been on TV and I want to laugh hysterically at it. But there are other times where I use it from a wellness standpoint. And it's funny, like you can leverage it for so many different things from a wellness standpoint, even from a mental health standpoint. Like people drink to forget. Well, there are certain times where like I might be upset and I'll smoke, and yeah, that not the pain's still there. I'm still kind of upset about that thing, but it puts in perspective where I'm like, maybe that's not nearly as important as I thought it was, and it makes me think of all the good stuff, right? It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's helping to rewire your brain, right? When you're de-stressing yourself, you're rewiring your brain. Your mind is learning to deal with stress in a new way. Cannabis helps with that. And you know, just because you know you want to watch a show and laugh, right? That is leading to a life of optimal wellness. Laughter is the best medicine, right? So you know, so there's nothing wrong with being in a good mood. This is all part of leading a life of optimized wellness. And so you know, I want to make sure that you know people understand that you know having a pain and dealing with back pain or whatever is you know something you need to deal with in our medical condition, cancer, what have you, is important for your wellness. But so is laughter, and so is socializing with other human beings, right? It's all part of you know something that benefits us, right? And so that's why we really believe that medical and recreational are fully integrated into your day-to-day life and should be.
There's one of my favorite comedians on the vein of laughter is Ron White, and there's a great clip of him on the Joe Rogan podcast saying he's like, they've got that medical marijuana out in California, so I use that to wean myself off the illegal stuff. And he goes, now they have recreational marijuana, so I plan on leveraging that to get myself off the medical stuff. And just the way that he says it is hilarious, but it's true. It's all the same stuff. It's really how you use it. And the more that we bring it to the limelight like this, it's going to be beneficial for people because there are people that actually need it for true ailments and everything else. And they're not going to the black market and getting something riddled with pesticides, or that they don't know what it is, or that it's a strain that might give them a load of paranoia and they just don't know it because they don't have experience. Which is why I love this market and this industry so much. You know, I remember when I started becoming a regular user and I thought it was this like dark, dingy thing. And then fast forward coming into the industry, meeting folks like yourself, a serial entrepreneur, you know, success a few times over, other people. And it's like, oh, wow, these are some of the most productive, most professional, hardworking people I've ever met. None of these people fit that stereotype that I was told for the past 8 years. This is crazy, which is what made me fall in love with this industry and frankly, start this show to have these great conversations. I know that's kind of me ranting right there. We're talking a lot about the company and the products and everything else, but I think it's so cool how you're pulled into this industry is you were actually working with algae and found out that a lot of the equipment you were using was also used in cannabis. Take us back to that moment.
Yeah. So that was really interesting. So I had been doing self-study molecular biology because I said, like I said, I'm a citizen scientist. I really find science amazing. And so, you know, there's a lot happening in the molecular bio world in the last, 20 years, particularly with the sequencing of the human genome. And now we've got sequences of genomes all over all kinds of species. And so I am particularly interested in algae. There's 100,000 species of algae. They have been around for billions of years. And these creatures have really complex genomes that produce incredibly valuable compounds, right? And because they've been around for so long, they've lasted through all kinds of different environmental conditions in our world. So I was down in San Diego. I started the lab and teaching other people and doing algae research because I have started a nonprofit that is working towards using algae to clean dirty water and make the precursors to biodegradable plastics. So that's really one of my life dreams. And one day I'll get back to that. But while I was doing that, I was building my own extraction equipment using scuba tanks, CO2 extractor in my backyard, because I couldn't find anything small enough that, small scale. And then, a friend of mine walked into my house and showed me something he bought on the internet to do CO2 extraction, and I couldn't believe it. And it was a cannabis oil CO2 extractor. And when I saw that, I thought about it for 24 hours. I said, why am I not in this industry? I can leverage all of my science background, all my plant medicine interest, and we can do a lot of similar stuff in the cannabis industry, helping to bring this amazing plant, bring it to as many people as possible.
Very cool. I've got to ask you something from kind of the entrepreneur business side here. Your current business partner is someone that you actually met in college, and you guys kind of circled the drain a little bit with business. He's helped you raise some capital and some ventures and everything else, at least from what I can read. What was it about this particular venture, about Sunderstorm, that you guys decided to finally work together? Because I've got a lot of friends and we always talk about doing things together and everything else, but ultimately we stay in our lane. And it's funny, we always say we're going to do something together one day and we'll figure out what it is. What all of a sudden about this opportunity was it, all right, this is it, we're going to partner on it and this is what we're going to run with? You guys have known each other for a while. You've done some work together.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I will tell you that the single hardest thing in business, 100%, is partners. I've had so many partners in my life and my various entrepreneurial activities, and some have been total disasters. A few have been, good successes. And to be honest, having a partner is really incredibly challenging because you have to see eye to eye. You have to have the same vision or similar visions. You have to have a good working relationship, and you got to be able, when things get tough, you got to be able to manage, confrontation. Right. Mm-hmm. So when Keith and I, we've done a lot of different things in our lives. He went to Wall Street and has a finance background, and then came back and started studying philosophy and consciousness, and was on the board of directors of a really cool East meets West university in Northern California. I also was getting into that point into plant medicines and doing my own shamanic work, and he had done some shamanic work. And so, he had been a lifelong consumer of cannabis. I was less so, but very much interested in the plant medicines and very much interested in the psychoactive compounds and all of that. My own personal journey with cannabis is that I'm very it's a more intense experience for me. So I've had trouble kind of figuring out the right dosing that really works well with the body, which is much easier today. Now that we have the new technologies and all of that. So, but Keith and I have been going to Burning Man for 20 years, right? So we understood very much the sense of community and the power of plant and the power of cannabis and how it can heal and all of that. And so when we sat down and thought about it, it was like, look, this is such a great blend of our experiences in life, right? We both love plant medicines. We both done shamanic work. He has a good finance background. I have a good science, engineering, and product development and production background. Really, two very synergistic types of backgrounds to start this venture. I knew this was really going to be hard to do on my own. And we both are very interested in community, and we both, really felt like like bringing this plant into the light, and empowering people to heal themselves was really something that both of us are very, very interested philosophically in being a part of, and just the expansion of consciousness, right? And you can define consciousness a variety of ways, but both of us are very, very interested in the science of consciousness, the philosophy of consciousness, and we really believe that cannabis is one of the most powerful ways to provide that ability for people. And there's all kinds of other psychoactive compounds that are coming down the pike that are going to be opening up to us as well. And this is, as you said earlier in the conversation, this is kind of the first plant medicine really that's being available to the American population that will be life-changing. And there will be all kinds of other stuff. We're going to look back on this in 30 or 40 years and say that this was the day, this was the time when the door flew open on all of this. And I think that makes this a really exciting time, despite all the challenges we face in our culture these days.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. And I really appreciate you sharing that story, because there are stigmas on both sides of the fence. There's the cannabis stigma to the general public. And then within the cannabis world, there's a stigma of Wall Street and corporate cannabis and things like that. And, I get it. I do. There have been a lot of people who have fought hard battles for us to get where we are. And we appreciate every single one of them. And I think a lot of us take the time to try to give back and try to make sure we're taking care of the industry. But, what I try to make a point across is there were a lot of us that, although we didn't take the journey directly into the cannabis industry through the black or gray markets or anything else, we were cannabis advocates and fans. And a lot of us had to be closeted because of the professions that we chose, or licenses that we had, or professional associations. And it's always interesting to me, especially considering, you called your partner a Wall Street guy, but then again, you've gone to Burning Man for the past 20 years, right? That's certainly not the stereotypical Wall Street
That's
guy.
right. That's
And
right.
I think, what I love about this industry is the combination of so many people from so many different backgrounds that share one thing in common: the passion for the plant and what it can do. And that's really the best part of the industry, where you can take someone like you who has a deep scientific background and knowledge and education, your partner who has the financial side of it and everything else. But at the end of the day, you guys are very much into nutrition, wellness, plant medicine, and everything else, which is what the attributes of a typical quote unquote cannabis OG would have, right? So, you guys
Yeah.
kind of had those profiles already. You're bringing in your real world experience to add value to this industry based on how other industries have succeeded. And I think that's really the beauty of this industry. And I hope folks start to see that although someone might dress up nicer or wear a suit and tie or come from a finance background, as long as you can tell that they have a passion for this plant, I welcome everybody there. And I think, and I don't know about you, but that really is my favorite part of this industry. Is we're not, I don't want to say we're an example of how everybody else should do business, but at least we're striving to get there.
Yeah, it's well said. We stand on the shoulders of giants, right? The revolutionaries that actually fought this hard fight to get us where we are today. And I personally have a tremendous amount of gratitude and appreciation for those people that fought in the trenches, those people that have spent time in jail, all for the power of this plant, right? And so I think that's, the work, we wouldn't be anywhere near where we are today without the work of all these amazing people. At the same time, I think there's a lot of contribution that's being done by the new people that have come into the industry. And I agree with you. If there's those folks that are just trying to make a quick buck, I think they're gonna struggle, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not about the quick buck. It's about doing the work that needs to be done to get this to get this plan out there and in a very, very reliable and consistent way that is helping people, right? And so it takes, when we interview new people in our company, the first thing we look for is passion. We look for their passion in the plant, because we have found that if they don't have that passion in the plant, they're not going to drive like the rest of us drive, right? And so, we're all excited to accomplish what we're accomplishing. And I think that, the new people that are coming in have all kinds of great things to add. And, I'll say that, when I got in this industry, uh, I was quite shocked at the level of pesticides that were poisoning the consumers of cannabis. And it took me a year before I could find truly organic cannabis to be able to extract and put into our products. And I was very frustrated by that. And so, a lot of people complain about the new regulatory framework and all of that. But the truth is, the fact that we have clean, tested cannabis that's out in the world and edibles that are very consistent across the board, this has been a great benefit for all the consumers these days. And I think it's taken a lot of hard work to get here, but it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, if it wasn't for legal cannabis, I swore off edibles a long time ago, and now I
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoy them again because, I mean, another story. A friend of ours made homemade ones back in the day, and we are in a group chat. So it wasn't too far back in the day, but my friends are like, "Oh, these are terrible. There's nothing in these." So I remember I got home from a trip. I was out of town. I had mine in the fridge, ate it. All of a sudden I remember texting back 2 days later. I'm like, well, I guess everything ended up in mine.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
agree with you that legalization was definitely a benefit. You're right about passion because you have to be passionate to succeed in this industry because of all the roadblocks that are ahead of you as an entrepreneur, even just as a regular employee of this industry. There are restrictions in marketing. We can't access paid social media. We can't do Google ads. We can't do targeting. There are restrictions in banking. Getting a bank account is not easy. You're getting predatory rates and everything else like that. You don't have access to the traditional financial system. I thought there was something cool that you guys did on a marketing standpoint. And I don't know how this came about, but you're doing a partnership with HBO Max for a television show. That's really cool. So how do you go from being a cannabis company that was deemed essential this year that 3, 4, 5 years ago was illegal, and now you've got a partnership with one of the biggest networks in the world?
Yeah, has been a very exciting thing for us, and we were very happy to be chosen by HBO to be their partner in this launch. Um, you know, in simple terms, cannabis is already part of our culture, right? It's in a lot of our movies. It's been for decades and television shows and all of that. Uh, but because it's been kind of hidden, right? It's been, in the dark. The major networks have not been able to really promote it in ways that they would like to, right? In new creative ways. But with full legalization in California after a couple of years of experience, HBO, basically the first real network, I think, big network to come out and actually, try something really novel. They said, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could have make cannabis edibles, one for each of the main characters in our show, right? That really leverage their different types of personalities, right? And so we made cannabis gummies that were indica and sativa and hybrid. There were different types for the different characters on the Close Enough show, and then we use them as a marketing effort to promote the show through by selling them through dispensaries throughout California. And it was wildly successful. They got a bunch of press. We got a bunch of press. The consumers loved the edibles. They were branded with the show on them, and I think it really proved that that a major media company and a major cannabis company can actually work well together to deliver a marketing activation that was very, very powerful. And I think that we actually set the bar because it was wildly successful. It worked completely the way we designed it. And the consumers loved it. So I think you're going to see more and more of that over time. Certainly, as we head towards federal legalization.
That's awesome. And I think, from the outside, looking in from the outside, that, working with you, and I believe that you guys offered a great first impression to partnering with the cannabis industry because you have a professional organization. not only did you partner with them, but you seriously delivered. The packaging looked incredible. You know, the campaign was great. So the fact that not only did they take this chance, but you guys did everything you could to make sure that you delivered and probably over delivered on what you promised. I mean, I love seeing that. And I love seeing that in our industry, because to me, that legitimizes us, that gives us another step in the right direction. I remember back in March when everything locked down and we were deemed essential. I remember saying on this show over and over and over again on episodes that this is, as bad as everything is going on in the world right now, that the spotlight is going to be on our industry, that we're going to get more attention than we ever got. And as long as we proceed the right way, within the law, within the rules, within the regulations, and we do things properly, that the world is watching us, waiting for us to mess up. And if we do things right, it's going to be great for our industry. And I'm glad that we are such a professional industry that that happened, that
Yep.
we probably got more press, mainstream press, than I've ever seen any other year. You know, and I'm not even just talking about like Entrepreneur and covering us instead of Green Entrepreneur. I'm talking CNBC, local news segments, you know, Rolling Stone having their culture counts on, all these different things. That, you know, it was a terrible year, but I think the cannabis industry kind of helped everybody get through it.
Yo, there's no doubt about it, and it was a great year for cannabis. You know, it was a terrible year, you know, in so many ways, but for cannabis, it really allowed us to shine, and you know, it basically, you know, we proved ourselves, as you said. You know, this was a chance for us to shine and really leverage all the hard work that everybody's been doing for decades in this industry, to tell the story of this amazing plant, and also, you know, for all of us that are you know, delivering a product through the licensed industry. You know, our products were deemed essential, and they helped millions of people manage all the challenges in our that we're seeing in our society today. So it's been a great year for all of us in that regard.
It has, you know, it's weird saying it that way, but it truly has. You know, working in this industry, you know, 2020 was interesting, and it's, you know, I don't want to say I'm glad it happened, because I'm certainly not, but you know, we all dealt with it very well, and I was glad to see how everyone handled it. You know, Cameron, I know we didn't really get into the products and everything else so much. We are coming up on the top of the hour here. It went fast. Really enjoying the conversation. What are some of the things, you know, we talked about the accomplishments. You guys are doing great things in the edibles world specifically, and I'm excited to get back out. I think you're in what, California, Colorado, Massachusetts, Canada. Am I missing one?
So we're opening up in 2 new states, and we will be announcing them next week. So we're very excited about it. Yeah, consumers have been yeah, emailing us for years about if they could find our products in other states, and so we've got 2 new states that are opening up in the next you know, couple months. We're announcing next week, and then we've probably got another one or two on the docket for the second half of the year. So this is our year for national expansion, and it's going to be amazing in the industry to see the West Coast brands really flourish and build into national cannabis brands.
No, I'm very excited to see that, because I think there have been a lot of good California brands, especially you guys, that need national attention, because I want good products to be the first impression that people get when they go into a dispensary. I want our industry to put their best foot forward, because I want more people to understand why we're so passionate and why we love this plant so much. I'm sure that you guys are in a permanent R&D mode all the time. What are some of the exciting things besides the expansion that could potentially be on the horizon this year?
Yeah, so we're very excited. We just launched last week our Arcana belts, right? So they're kind of a belt format of our gummies, and they are 50 milligrams per each belt, 2 belts in one package, and you can tear them off at specific locations to get exactly 10 milligrams if that's what you want, or if you want for the high dose consumer, you can consume the whole belt. So you get a little bit more if you're an experienced consumer, you get a little more bang for your buck to be able to get them, you know. Be able to adjust them more easily, and they're also at least 1/3, maybe more or less sugar. So for those that typically have the higher tolerance and need to consume more, there's going to be a lot less sugar. So that's exciting. Like I said, we have the Nano 5 sublinguals, oral sprays that we've launched just in beta mode that are going to be tied to your DNA. So with Endocanna Health, we have this DNA test kit that checks your DNA and then will recommend products based on your DNA. That's going to be an area of evolution in 2021. As we roll that out and develop those technologies, it's still kind of early days and in its infancy, but I think that's going to be very exciting. We're going to be launching some new types of ingestibles this year that I think are going to be great for consumers. Don't want to give too many details on that yet, but there's going to be new product categories coming out, which will launch in California and then follow up in other states as well. So we're really on a tear these days. We have a couple hundred employees that are incredibly dedicated. I think we could be twice that in 12 to 18 months. And our goal is just to take everything that we learned in California and provide these amazing products to consumers throughout the country.
Very cool, man. Well, I'm extremely excited about the innovation. I'm most excited, I think, about the DNA kit. I definitely want to try that out and see the recommendations. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed the conversation. It went super quick. We're definitely going to have you back on as you guys start getting these releases, talk about more of them. Cameron, where can everyone find you? Where can they find Sunderstorm? Let's get all the websites and socials out there.
Yeah, probably the best place is just to go to sunderstorm.com. That lists all of our products. You can go to Instagram at by Sunderstorm, and then at Kind of Treats on Instagram, and you'll find us there.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you again so much. And thank you, everybody at home. If you missed any part of this episode, of course, it'll be live on YouTube and all the audio platforms on Monday, youtube.com/elevateyourgrind, on Apple, Stitcher, the rest of them. Just search for Elevate Your Grind. Don't forget, folks, February 6th is the annual C-Lab conference, and you do not want to miss tomorrow night's panel. It's going to be great. You can see that at joinclab.com. Folks, this is our last episode for the week. We've got the panel tomorrow, and we will be live next week with Zachary Pitts from Ganja Goddess on Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here at facebook.com/Canna Business Group. It's been another episode of Elevate Your Grind.